So now I am like for real considering selling my Contax 645. And these are the reasons. So I posted a video about 2 months ago recounting the story of how I demolished my beautiful 80mm lens on my medium format film camera, my Contax 645. When the insurance sent me that money for the replacement of my lens, I saw that dollar amount in my bank account and the question was very obvious. If I had, it's around $4,000 Canadian, so it's like 3,000 US. If I had, $3,000, $4,000, would I go out? And if I didn't have a Contax and I needed to buy, the lens and this, like, would I spend thousands of dollars on this particular body? That's the question. And honestly, it's such a great question, not just about cameras, but anything in your life where you're like, should I keep this? Should I not keep this? Like, think about if you had the money of the value of that thing, would you go out and buy it again? And that just keeps going over and over in my head. So I have 7 reasons why I am considering selling my Contax and moving in a different direction. And then at the end, I'm going to tell you kind of the options that I'm looking at and where this goes from here. Number 1, does it have the impact that I need it to have anymore? So, like if you have ever used this camera, or if you're in the kind of film hybrid photography world, it's a legend. And the lens is the legendary part. Like that's why people get this camera, is because of this lens. It's so beautiful. And that's kind of the impact like level of this camera, because you can get other, medium format film cameras. You can get other film cameras, but it's this lens that's just like, And this is the problem. My digital Nikon 51.2 is so good. And it has such an impact that for me, it's made a little bit of like the use of the Contax a little like, it makes me question it, because I have another lens that I use on a wedding day that has almost the same amount of impact in the photos. And so it's felt a little bit redundant. Like I'm just like, having these 2 incredible lenses and I'm just kind of shooting the same thing. And it's starting to make less and less sense to me. Now, if I didn't have my Z50 1.2, my Nikon lens, this would be a different conversation. And to be fair, that's something that a lot of you brought up in the comments. Like, what does this give you? A lot of you asked about what does film give you? Those are 2 different conversations. And that's another point that I'm going to get to. But this camera specifically, what does it do for my clients? What does it do for my work? And it's doing less and less. Number 2 is that I need a reliable piece of equipment. And I said this in my last video. I went to get this lens repaired. Part of the reason why insurance was covering the full price of this lens is because the place that I usually get it repaired doesn't have parts for it and is no longer repairing this lens. And that's a huge issue for someone like me, where I'm shooting a lot of events every year and I can't get a lens repaired. I just have to like buy a new one if there's something wrong with my lens. That's a hard thing to justify. I think someone mentioned in the comments, it would make sense for an amateur, but it's difficult for a professional to be using it over and over again to not be able to repair it. I 100% agree with that. I need a replaceable thing that I can use over and over again, that I can replicate, that when I have additional shooters, if I want to bring on associate shooters one day, I need to be able to replicate what I do. And if I have a camera that's so rare that it's hard to like get pieces for, that makes it difficult. Number 3 is the size and portability is an issue. It is a big camera. And after getting the Z series Nikon bodies and lenses, it kind of wrecked me, because I was getting used to kind of a lighter, more portable gear. Even though the 50 is massive, it's still pretty light for what I'm getting. And I found that the Nikon, this was even before this was a thing I was already thinking about this whole summer, was that it was big. It was in the way. It's heavy. It does put a toll on me throughout a wedding day. And I do carry it most of the day. I would love a film camera that wasn't so cumbersome. It was making me feel stressed. And I don't want to be stressed on a wedding day, right? Like I have lots of things to worry about. What I don't want to be worrying about is like the size of my gear, like running into people, hitting things, falling off. And we'll get to that. 4 is that it doesn't work well with my clip system. As we found out, it failed and hit the ground. And I know I've had a bunch of comments of like, why are you using those clips? Like, that stresses me out. And I know, I understand that they're not super heavy duty clips. They work well with kind of a basic SLR, maybe not like heavy duty cameras. But I really like the system. I like how it looks. I like how it fits under my suits. I know there's other systems that are more heavy duty and secure, but it also looks like you're wearing like a bib around your waist. And I hate that. It makes me really stressed carrying a Contax on the clips, which is, I know. It's kind of a stupid thing to do it on these Peak Design clips. I did it for like 3 years with no issues, but anyways. Number 5 is I want to shoot more film on wedding days. And this was a thing that was probably brought up most consistently, kind of, in those comments. Does shooting with film really make a difference? And yes, 100%. It totally makes a difference. Like there's a conversation we had between like the specific equipment and shooting film. And shooting film specifically for me, like, watch some videos on my channel. Like I talk about this a lot. Like I love shooting film. I love the process. I love what it does with my brain in how I approach shooting a wedding day. And like that could be a whole different video. And what I found was that the Contax limited me. Like it's difficult to do it's difficult to focus in low light. It's not ideal for shooting like reception in like Ilford 3200, for example. Number 6 is I want to be a little bit different. So the Contax has always been popular, but it has become really popular with people that kind of want to get into the luxury space, or if they want to kind of increase their prices almost instantly, like let's get a Contax and let's hold it in our profile picture and have a photo of us. And I understand. I've been there. I'm excited about a piece of equipment. You want to have it part of your branding. But that's actually, I've moved away from that. I don't tell people, okay, I tell lots of people on this channel that I use the Contax, but it's not part of my like marketing for my business. I don't even necessarily push super hard that I shoot film. I want less of my reliance to be on a specific camera and more of the reliance on what I actually offer people. I found that I was doing this myself with the Contax. I was kind of relying on this camera, relying on the lens to create beautiful imagery. And instead of focusing on what I was doing, it's at the end of the day, it's just equipment. And yes, it's a beautiful lens, but there's other lenses out there and you can create beautiful imagery with a non-Contax 645. And I think I'm there. I think it did some really great things for me when I first got it. It's tough. I love this. I love the Contax, but part of me wants to be different. And part of me wants to be a film wedding photographer, but to not have a Contax. I kind of want to try that. Number 7, the reality is there are different options. And I put them in two big categories. The first category is 35mm film options. And then the other category is medium format options. The first option, the 35mm format, there's obviously lots of film cameras, right? There's so many in that category. For me, I'm a Nikon guy. I'm so dedicated to the brand, for better or worse. Like what I imagine using is just like the film. I have an F100. I haven't really used it much actually in a few years. When I think about having, that $4,000 instead of the Contax lens, the idea of like taking several $1,000s and just go and buying a few film Nikon bodies and like I have all of the F lenses to look at, that thought makes me pretty excited. Like, ooh, it makes me giddy. Like that makes me feel like I have like the joy and excitement of photography back. And I haven't like felt that in a while. And then the other options are medium format cameras. Now, it goes back to the question, like, if you didn't have it, would you go and get it? Like, am I looking at medium formats just because I want to replace the Contax? Or am I looking at medium formats because I want to use a medium format camera while shooting weddings? But these are the realistic options that I'm looking at for medium format. So the Hasselblad, the H1, I know it's kind of new. It's like the almost digital version of the Hasselblad. It's kind of ugly, but kind of cool. Okay, that and then the Hasselblad 500. So those two, the idea of having a Hasselblad for me is very nostalgic. So growing up as like a teenager, like I imagine like being a photographer was to shoot with a Hasselblad. Like being a top photographer is to have a Hasselblad. Like I remember going to like a show, like a camera show here in Toronto when I was like, I don't know, probably 17, and they had a 50 megapixel Hasselblad and I was able to hold it and shoot it. And I was like, this is the pinnacle of photography. A Mamiya, there's a few different versions of the Mamiya. Some of them are just like massive and difficult to use. So that's an option. The Bronica, I never really thought about this before or really come across it much, but the ETRS, somebody put it in the comments and I've just started looking to it a little bit. And then of course the Pentax is probably the most common alternate to the Contax 645, which almost makes me not want to look into it because I want to go in a completely different direction. What I'm thinking kind of going forward is to spend the next couple months renting or getting my hands on these cameras and just testing them out and bringing you guys along as I figure out a new film system for my wedding photography business. And I think that would be kind of fun. I'm going to kind of keep my mind open and just try these different things, give a little bit of a review on them, and to give you kind of my thoughts about, will this fit in my new kit for 2024? My first wedding is March 24th. So the clock is ticking. I need a new kit and I need it to be ready for March 24th. So it's exciting. I'm excited. Let me know your thoughts. If I'm just like totally missing something that I absolutely need to be looking at, let me know in the comments and let me know what your thoughts are about my 7 reasons for shipping my Contax 645, whether it's a good idea or a terrible idea. Okay, see you in the next video.